There exists a rare and intriguing type of man who, the moment he enters a room, commands an unspoken tension, particularly in the presence of women. He isn't overtly rude, nor does he carry himself with the brash arrogance of someone demanding attention. He isn't intentionally aloof or playing hard to get. Yet, there's something undeniably magnetic yet unsettling about his presence, an energy that, for reasons people can't immediately articulate, puts them on edge. This is the Sigma male, a man who exists outside the conventional hierarchy of social dynamics, answering to no one's expectations but his own. Unlike alpha males, who thrive on dominance and visibility, or beta males, who subconsciously seek validation from others, the Sigma male operates on an entirely different wavelength. He moves through life with a quiet, self-assured independence, neither chasing approval nor competing for the spotlight. There's no pretense in his demeanor, no forced charm, no performative confidence. He simply is. And therein lies the problem for many, especially in the dating world, where unspoken rules dictate attraction. Women, conditioned to expect pursuit or overt displays of interest, often find themselves disoriented by his indifference to these norms. His lack of engagement in the usual mating dances, flirting on cue, showering empty compliments, or bending to societal expectations, can feel like rejection, triggering confusion, frustration, or even outright dismissal. Yet, the irony is profound. The very traits that repel women initially, his refusal to chase, his emotional restraint, his unwillingness to perform, are the same qualities that, with time, become irresistibly compelling. What first reads as disinterest later reveals itself as authenticity. What seems like coldness is actually a refusal to play manipulative games. And where his presence once felt unnerving, it eventually becomes a grounding force. The Sigma male doesn't change, perception of him does. So why does this shift happen? Why do women who initially resist his energy later find themselves inexplicably drawn to it? The answer lies in understanding the 6 key traits that make Sigma males so polarizing at first glance, and why those same traits, once misunderstood, become the reasons women can't forget them. From his unsettling honesty to his refusal to conform to dating rituals, each characteristic serves as both a barrier and a magnet. By breaking down these behaviors, we uncover not just the psychology behind the Sigma male's allure, but also the deeper, often unacknowledged desires they awaken in others. Let's explore why women push these men away, only to later realize they've been pulled in deeper than they ever expected. Number 1, they don't chase, and that feels like rejection. The early stages of attraction follow an unspoken ritual as familiar as breathing, the delicate push and pull, the calculated delays before responding, the subtle but intentional pursuit designed to signal interest while maintaining the upper hand. This dance exists for a reason, it reassures. When someone plays their expected role, initiating contact, mirroring excitement, amplifying attention, it confirms mutual desire. The chase isn't just tradition, it's psychological safety, proof that both parties are equally invested. Then enters the Sigma male, and suddenly, the rhythm falters. From the first interaction, something feels unsettlingly absent. Where most men would lean in, complimenting, texting first, orchestrating chance encounters, he remains unmoved. There's no exaggerated enthusiasm, no performative effort to win her over. His engagement is measured, his interest expressed only when genuinely felt. To a woman conditioned to equate pursuit with attraction, this absence reads as a glaring red flag. Does he not like me? Is he playing games? The questions spiral because his behavior defies the script she's spent a lifetime internalizing. Here's the truth she can't yet see: the Sigma male doesn't reject her, he rejects the artifice of the chase itself. Where others see courtship as a series of strategic maneuvers, he views connection as a binary equation. Either there's organic chemistry, or there isn't. He won't manufacture desire to stroke egos or adhere to social expectations. This isn't arrogance or disinterest, it's integrity. But in a world where mixed signals are the norm, his clarity feels like indifference. The fallout is predictable. When he doesn't double text after a vague reply, when he doesn't scramble to reschedule after a last-minute cancellation, her insecurities rush into the void. Every unanswered question amplifies the sting. Why isn't he trying harder? What she interprets as rejection, however, is simply his refusal to participate in a dynamic he finds disingenuous. The Sigma male doesn't withhold attention as a power play, he simply allocates it honestly. Yet, this very trait that initially frustrates becomes transformative with time. As the fog of early dating games dissipates, his consistency starts to resonate differently. The absence of mind games begins to feel like oxygen in a room thick with manipulation. His lack of chase isn't a negation of her worth but a quiet demand for authenticity, one that, once understood, redefines her standards. What first felt like neglect later reveals itself as respect. And in that realization, the very behavior that pushed her away becomes the reason she can't walk away. The Sigma male doesn't chase because he doesn't need to. His presence isn't a question begging for an answer, it's a statement waiting to be understood. Number 2, they walk away if something feels off. There comes a pivotal moment in every budding connection, when the laughter flows easily, the conversation sparks with potential, and the chemistry feels electric. Then, in an instant so subtle most would miss it, something shifts. A careless remark slips out. A micro-expression flashes across her face. A seemingly innocent behavior reveals a deeper pattern. Where others might overlook these signs or rationalize them away, the Sigma male's entire demeanor undergoes an imperceptible but irreversible change. The warmth in his eyes dims by fractions. His engagement becomes measured where it was once effortless. Physically present but emotionally withdrawing, he creates a distance that wasn't there moments before, leaving her scrambling to understand what invisible line was crossed. This instinctive retreat stems from a hard-earned wisdom most lack. The Sigma male possesses a finely tuned radar for authenticity, calibrated through years of observing human behavior. Where conventional daters might negotiate with their instincts, maybe I'm overreacting, or she didn't really mean it that way, he recognizes certain red flags as non-negotiable. These aren't petty deal-breakers about appearance or interests, but fundamental warnings about character, the subtle signs of manipulation, the faint whiff of emotional unavailability, or the telltale patterns of disrespect he's encountered before. His reaction isn't judgmental but protective. Having learned through painful experience that people rarely change in the ways that matter, he refuses to repeat history. The decision to withdraw happens at a primal level, a subconscious recognition of familiar danger signals that bypasses rational debate entirely. What makes this behavior so unsettling, and ultimately so compelling, is its quiet finality. Unlike more demonstrative personalities who might confront or demand explanations, the Sigma male simply steps back. He won't lecture about boundaries or list perceived offenses, understanding that those who exhibit red flags are rarely receptive to such feedback. His retreat isn't a manipulative tactic but an act of self-preservation, a gradual but deliberate reduction of investment in someone who's shown themselves to be unsafe. This creates a paradox that lingers in her mind. The man who seemed so engaged moments ago now feels just out of reach, not because he's playing games, but because he's genuinely detached. The fascinating twist lies in how this behavior transforms over time. Initially, his withdrawal triggers frustration or even anger. How dare he judge so quickly? But as the sting of rejection fades, something unexpected happens. The very fact that he walked away without drama or desperate pleas begins to haunt her. In a dating landscape filled with people who cling to toxic connections out of loneliness or fear, his willingness to disengage becomes a silent testament to his standards. What first appeared as coldness reveals itself as strength. His refusal to chase becomes proof of his discernment. This creates a powerful psychological pull. The human mind instinctively values what demonstrates self-worth, and the Sigma male's quiet exits speak louder than any declaration of boundaries ever could. His greatest power lies not in his presence, but in his willingness to remove it, teaching through action that real connection requires mutual respect, not just mutual attraction. Number 3, their honesty feels too blunt. There exists a suspended moment in every difficult conversation, that electric pause after a challenging question is asked, where social convention demands a carefully measured response. Most people instinctively reach for softened phrasing, tactful omissions, or sugar-coated half-truths designed to spare feelings while skirting the heart of the matter. But when a Sigma male speaks, this unspoken rule shatters. His words land with unvarnished precision, cutting through the comfortable illusions people wrap themselves in. The truth emerges not with malice, but with a startling purity that leaves others momentarily stunned, not because what he says is cruel, but because they've become so accustomed to hearing reality filtered through layers of social lubrication. This unfiltered communication style stems from a fundamental philosophical difference in how the Sigma male views human interaction. Where others see diplomacy as necessary social grease, he sees it as potential deception. In his worldview, polishing the truth, even with good intentions, creates false impressions that ultimately cause more damage than the temporary discomfort of blunt honesty. He operates on the principle that adults should be capable of handling unprocessed reality without requiring emotional hand-holding. This isn't a lack of empathy, but rather a different expression of respect, the kind that values another person's resilience over their fragility. The Sigma male would rather risk momentary offense than participate in the slow poison of white lies and withheld truths that erode relationships over time. The cultural clash this creates is immediate and visceral. In a society where "how are you" is ritual rather than genuine inquiry, where "we should get together sometime" means nothing of the sort, his literal interpretations and direct responses feel like social violations. When asked for an opinion on a new outfit, he won't default to empty compliments. When confronted with unreasonable behavior, he won't soften his boundaries to keep the peace. This creates cognitive dissonance in those accustomed to the dance of indirect communication. They can't decide whether to admire his integrity or resent his refusal to play the game. The discomfort stems not from what he says, but from being suddenly deprived of the familiar cushion of plausible deniability that normally buffers human interactions. Yet this very quality that initially causes friction often becomes the cornerstone of his most meaningful relationships. After weathering the storm of failed connections built on polite fictions, many come to recognize the irreplaceable value of someone who says what they mean without subtext or agenda. The women who initially balked at his bluntness eventually realize that his words, however sharp, always ring true, unlike the sweet nothings of more conventionally charming men that often dissolve upon closer examination. In a world of carefully curated personas and performative vulnerability, the Sigma male's unedited honesty becomes a rare anchor point of authenticity. What first felt like abrasiveness transforms into reliability, the assurance that with him, what you see is genuinely what you get. The initial sting of his directness proves far less painful than the accumulated weight of the half-truths, false promises, and comforting lies that characterize so many other relationships. His honesty doesn't soften with time, but people's ability to receive it does, often becoming the standard by which they measure all other connections. Number 4, they're not easily impressed. In an era of manufactured enthusiasm and performative admiration, the Sigma male's muted reactions stand out like a whisper in a shouting match. She shares what she considers an impressive accomplishment, perhaps a promotion at work, a creative project she's poured herself into, or an exclusive experience, and instinctively braces for the expected chorus of exaggerated praise. But from him, there's no dramatic gasp, no effusive compliments dripping with false enthusiasm. Just a quiet nod, perhaps a thoughtful question that shows he's listening, but none of the over-the-top validation she's come to expect from others. His response isn't dismissive, it's proportionate. And in a world where every minor achievement is treated as earth-shattering, his measured reaction feels like a splash of cold water to the face. This dynamic reveals a fundamental cultural disconnect. Social media and modern dating norms have conditioned us to expect, and perform, constant, hyperbolic admiration. A home-cooked meal becomes Gordon Ramsay-level genius, a routine promotion transforms into changing the industry, and basic competence is celebrated as extraordinary. The Sigma male refuses to participate in this economy of inflated praise. Not out of cynicism or arrogance, but because he maintains an internal barometer for what truly warrants amazement. His compliments aren't currency to be traded for approval or affection. They're rare gems, carefully awarded only when genuinely merited. This creates cognitive dissonance. When everyone else is handing out participation trophies of praise, his authentic scale of measurement feels jarringly out of sync. What makes this trait so unsettling, and ultimately so valuable, is its psychological ripple effect. Initially, his lack of easy impressment triggers deep-seated insecurities. Without the dopamine hit of instant validation, she's left questioning, was my achievement not good enough? Does he think less of me? But this discomfort serves an important purpose. It forces introspection about why external validation matters so much in the first place. The Sigma male's restraint creates a vacuum where genuine self-worth must grow to fill the space previously occupied by others' opinions. The transformative moment comes when she finally does something that does impress him, not just mildly interest or politely acknowledge, but truly resonate with his standards. Maybe it's an insight that reveals unexpected depth, a demonstration of skill that shows real mastery, or a moment of character that aligns with his values. When that rare, unprompted compliment finally comes, it carries the weight of authenticity. Unlike the hollow praise she's accustomed to, given reflexively to smooth social interactions, his admiration feels earned rather than obligatory. The delayed gratification makes it more meaningful. What initially felt like disinterest reveals itself as discernment. In this way, the Sigma male becomes an unintentional mirror, reflecting back not what she wants to hear, but what's actually there. His unwillingness to participate in the theater of false admiration paradoxically makes his genuine appreciation one of the most sought-after currencies in her emotional economy. Where others' compliments blur into white noise, his, precisely because they can't be taken for granted, become keepsakes. The woman who initially bristled at his lack of easy praise eventually comes to crave that rarest of gifts, not flattery, but authentic recognition from someone whose standards she's learned to respect. Number 5, they're difficult to read. The human face is normally an open ledger of emotion, eyebrows lifting in surprise, lips tightening in irritation, eyes softening with affection. Most people broadcast their feelings with unconscious transparency, their inner states as legible as neon signs. But when she encounters the Sigma male, this familiar system of non-verbal communication fails spectacularly. She scans his features with increasing desperation, searching for the micro-expressions and subtle tells that normally reveal a person's thoughts, only to find nothing. His expression remains an enigma, his demeanor as consistent as deep ocean waters, undisturbed by passing emotional weather. Where others wear their hearts on their sleeves, his remains locked in a vault, accessible only when he chooses to reveal it. This emotional opacity creates a profound psychological dissonance in social interactions. From childhood, we're conditioned to rely on emotional feedback loops. We say something funny and wait for the laugh, share vulnerable information and watch for the sympathetic response. The Sigma male short-circuits this entire system. His lack of readable reactions denies others the constant validation they've come to expect, creating an unsettling power dynamic where she feels emotionally exposed while he remains inscrutable. It's profoundly disorienting, like speaking into a void that refuses to echo back. This isn't calculated aloofness or some manipulative strategy, it's simply how he's wired. Where most people experience emotions as external performances, he processes them internally, expressing only what he consciously chooses to share. The initial frustration this causes is understandable. In a world where oversharing is the norm and emotional transparency is prized above all, his restraint feels like rejection. She wonders, is he bored? Angry? Disinterested? The absence of familiar cues triggers anxiety. If she can't read him, how can she adjust her behavior to maintain the connection? This discomfort stems from a deeper truth: we fear what we can't predict or control. His emotional self-containment represents a form of autonomy that feels almost confrontational in its refusal to perform expected emotional labor. Yet this very quality that initially repels eventually becomes magnetic. As she interacts with countless open books, people whose emotions spill out unchecked, who demand constant reassurance and validation, the Sigma male's quiet self-possession begins to seem increasingly valuable. His emotional privacy creates space for mystery in a world of compulsive transparency. Where others' feelings are cheap currency, tossed around carelessly, his become precious precisely because they're rare and carefully considered. The woman who once strained to interpret his micro-expressions finds herself drawn into deeper engagement, not despite his inscrutability but because of it. The transformation occurs gradually. What began as frustration with his poker face evolves into respect for his emotional discipline. The irritation at not being able to read him matures into appreciation for someone who doesn't demand emotional caretaking. And when he does choose to reveal genuine emotion, not the performative kind, but the real, considered, hard-won variety, it carries exponentially more weight than the constant emotional noise she's accustomed to. His unreadable nature stops being a wall and becomes instead a door, one that only opens when something real waits on the other side. In this way, the Sigma male redefines emotional intimacy, proving that true connection isn't about constant accessibility, but about the quality of what's shared when the rare decision to share is made. Number 6, they don't give compliments easily. In the modern social economy, compliments have become the cheap currency of interaction, thrown around with such thoughtless abundance that they've lost all intrinsic value. Studies reveal the average person both gives and receives multiple compliments daily, most of them reflexive niceties designed to grease the wheels of conversation rather than convey genuine admiration. "You look amazing," spills out automatically, regardless of appearance. "That's incredible," gets attached to the most mundane accomplishments. This constant stream of hollow praise creates an unspoken expectation, a transactional rhythm where validation flows freely in exchange for momentary goodwill. Then enters the Sigma male, and this well-oiled machine of mutual ego-stroking grinds to a halt. Where others distribute compliments like Halloween candy, indiscriminately and in bulk, the Sigma male treats them like rare artifacts to be bestowed only under specific conditions. This isn't about social awkwardness or intentional stinginess, but about an almost radical commitment to authenticity. In his worldview, praise should be earned, not expected, meaningful, not perfunctory. He refuses to participate in the theater of false admiration, even when social convention demands it. When she wears a new dress, the Sigma male won't parrot the standard, "You look beautiful," unless he genuinely means it, and even then, he might say nothing at all if the observation feels too obvious or unnecessary. His silence isn't disapproval, but respect, for both her intelligence and his own integrity. The immediate impact of this restraint is profoundly disorienting. In a culture where constant verbal validation has become synonymous with basic decency, his measured approach feels like emotional deprivation. That moment when she drops a carefully crafted anecdote about her promotion and receives only a nod instead of the anticipated fanfare creates cognitive dissonance. The absence of expected praise registers as a silent critique, triggering insecurities she didn't know she harbored. Is he not impressed? Does he think I don't deserve recognition? This discomfort stems from a fundamental misunderstanding. She mistakes his refusal to participate in performative admiration for actual disapproval, when in reality, it's simply a different communication paradigm. What makes this trait so transformative is the seismic shift that occurs when he does offer praise. Because his compliments aren't given lightly, they carry an emotional weight that cuts through the noise of constant, meaningless flattery. When he remarks on her sharp analytical mind rather than her pretty smile, or acknowledges her resilience rather than her outfit, the specificity and rarity of the observation makes it land with profound impact. These aren't throwaway lines designed to make her feel good in the moment, they're carefully considered recognitions of qualities that truly impress him. The woman who initially bristled at his lack of easy compliments eventually comes to treasure this scarcity, understanding that his silence isn't withholding, but rather the necessary contrast that makes his genuine praise meaningful. In time, she begins to recognize the hidden gift in his restraint. By refusing to inflate her ego with empty words, he pushes her to develop intrinsic self-worth independent of external validation. The compliments she once craved from others start to feel cheap and unsatisfying compared to his hard-won admiration. And when those rare, perfectly targeted words of praise finally come, unprompted, unexpected, and undeniably sincere, they resonate with a potency that changes her entire understanding of what real appreciation feels like. The Sigma male doesn't devalue compliments by making them common, he reveals their true worth by making them rare. Conclusion: the paradox of the Sigma male's allure. At first, the Sigma male seems difficult, his honesty stings, his independence frustrates, his silence confuses. But what initially pushes people away is exactly what pulls them back later. His refusal to play social games doesn't make him cold, it makes him real. Women who dismiss him often return, realizing his flaws were actually strengths in disguise. His rare compliments mean more because they're true. His loyalty matters because it's earned, not given freely. In a world full of performers, the Sigma male's authenticity becomes irresistible. The very traits that make him hard to love are why he's impossible to forget. Final thought: the right people won't need him to change, they'll realize he was worth understanding all along. Thank you for watching.